I'll give a weird example because people keep asking about the symbolism of America, and I'm just gonna, I'll just tease this. I'll just tease this. Okay. So you might have heard we had a civil war a couple hundred years ago here in the United States. It was kind of a thing. Um, so in our name, right, there's a plurality in the name, the United States, right? What is a state? A state is not a province. A state is a, you know, like the traditional definition of a state is that a state is like, it's like a standalone self-governing principality of some kind, right? So so we are the United States. And so the idea is that you had all of these standalone principalities who would come together to cooperate on certain levels, right? And that was the, let's say, that was one vision of what America might be, right? And it's not what came out of the Civil War. And the reason it didn't come out of the Civil War is because there was no higher principality, right? There was no sacred direction toward which each of those individual things could orient themselves, right? And so what ends up happening is, of course, you have some band together against others that band together, and you have a war. So the way that this, I'm going to just say on a symbolic level, the way that the unity of the United States manifests in the post-Civil War area is actually in the person of Abraham Lincoln. And the reason that I believe this is the case is because if you go to Washington, D.C., we have a temple to Abraham Lincoln in Washington, D.C. And it really is a temple. Like, it says it's a temple on the temple, right? There's an engraving behind this. So it's modeled on an ancient temple of Zeus. I forget which one, but it's modeled on an ancient temple of Zeus. And then sitting in the center, in the throne, instead of Zeus, it's Abraham Lincoln. And there's an inscription behind him.
That sculpture, man, it's got a lot of that double nature to it, because they actually, in the sculpture itself, they have one side of Abraham Lincoln, which is kind of ordered, and the other side of Abraham Lincoln, which is kind of disordered.
It's a little like what's going on that Pantocrator.
In the icon of the
right?
Pantocrator.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And so behind his head, in an inscription that says, "In this temple, as in the hearts of those for whom he saved the Union, Abraham Lincoln will be forever enshrined," something like that. And like, listen to the language there. The idea is that Abraham Lincoln has come into your heart and he has saved you. I mean, that's deliberately, like, that's in the language of the Lincoln Memorial.
Yeah.
But at the roof of the Lincoln Memorial, and I think it's very interesting that it's the roof and not, say, the floor, but at the roof of the Lincoln Memorial, you have the engraved names of all the states that were in the Union at the time the memorial was built, right? And so there's this idea then that it's almost like an idea of like the Council of the Gods, right? But it's the idea that we're able to sort of like we have a sacred place, we have a sacred building towards which the states are able to orient themselves, right? And so like they're sort of joined in the person of Lincoln. And one of the interesting things that's happened is that as we start to fracture again as a society, you have people. Originally, it was the right who like maybe 10 or 15 years ago got really down on Lincoln because they felt like he'd obliterated the whole idea of like states' rights or whatever. But now it's the left, and they're down at, like, Lincoln is sort of getting canceled, right? So it's like Lincoln was like the one thing everyone could agree on. It that was the principality, if you will, that was sort of holding this idea of the American vision, the American dream together.
Yeah.
And as we begin to fragment, we're losing our trust in that particular principality.